Welcome back everyone to our YouTube channel. In today's video, we'll find out the most saddening deaths in video games. The Joker, Batman Arkham City. The Joker is worthless of sadness and memorial. Despite all his horrible acts, the Joker's demise remains one of the saddest deaths in gaming history. His last moments act as a direct consequence of his stormy relationship with superhero vigilante Batman. The Joker had always believed that no matter what, the Dark Knight would spare his life. The Joker thinks that he has finally convinced the Caped Crusader during the last confrontation in Arkham City. A tiny moment of fear in the case that Batman is not prepared to eliminate the Joker ultimately. He refuses to give him an antidote that can cure his illness. Joker tries to get the antidote for himself, sensing the possibility of death. The antidote is then destroyed and the Joker must face up to the fact that he will not survive his death. Batman eliminates the Joker's win in his dying moments, emphasizing that he utterly committed to rescuing him. John Marston, Red Dead Redemption. John Marston was a villain in his way. During his early years, the Wild West gunslinger was known for his kidnappings, raids, murders, and robberies. John's father died when he was 8 years old, and as a consequence, he was forced to live in an orphanage. John Marston finally left refuge, only to find himself in an entire center of violent gangs. A sequence of circumstances gradually changes Marston from a callous outlaw to a loving parent. They spend a lot of time in Breacher's Hope in Red Dead Redemption, trying to build a life and legacy. It was for this reason that John Marston's death was so painful. The way John checks out is really disturbing. On his property, in his barn, the gunslingers find himself forced into a corner. John Marston's terrible lifestyle has finally caught up with him, and he goes out in a blaze of gunfire to rescue what he has left of his family. Zac Fair, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII. People and fascinating stories abound in Final Fantasy universe. Cloud Strife, a tragic character, is first seen in Final Fantasy VII. Many players remarked on his talented, soldier's cold, and heartless attitude, and he would go on to become one of the most tragic characters in all of Final Fantasy history. Throughout Final Fantasy VII, we hear tales of Cloud's good buddy Zac Fair, who died. We didn't ultimately get to see Zac Fair in person until Crisis Core. Final Fantasy VII, his upbeat manner and caring approach immediately won over many athletes. Both characters experience a painful moment towards the film's conclusion when Zac relinquishes his beloved Buster Sword to Cloud. He whispers to his buddy, urging him to carry on his legacy and fulfill his goals if he were still alive. Because Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII is a sequel to the original game, Zac's death was a foregone conclusion. Lee Everett, The Walking Dead. Lee Everett was initially introduced to us in the first episode of Telltale Games, The Walking Dead. The former history instructor is found guilty of assassinating a state's legislator who he saw sleeping with his wife. The apocalypse's unexpected catastrophe grants Lee his freedom, and he quickly meets Clementine, a little girl who is frightened and alone. Through conversation options and choices, the player may shape Lee into the person they want to be, regardless of how his attitude towards others. Lee remains Clementine's strong supporter, promising to safeguard the little girl with his life. This is probably the most disturbing aspect of Lee's tragic demise. Lee finds himself on the verge of death after a painful bite. Clementine is compelled to tie her to her beloved guardian to prevent him from harming her after he reanimates as a member of the living dead. It's up to the player at this point to decide whether Clementine kills Lee to save him from such a destiny or to save herself the pathological toll of a mercy killing. For both Clementine and the player, it is a very difficult choice. Noble 6, Halo Reach. Although the Halo series has seen its fair share of sad deaths, Halo Reach is in a league of its own. With good cause, the campaign for this game is regarded as one of the finest single-player experiences in the franchise. You take on the role of Noble 6, a member of the Noble team, charged with protecting the planet Reach from the Covenant. The task was crucial because a Covenant seize would mean a definite death for the planet. You won't be facing the majority of your task alone, as you would be joined with 4 other Spartan warriors. You'll grow to love and respect Kat, Emil, Carter, and George as you go through the game. This makes their unavoidable and tragic deaths all the more painful. To make things worse, you'll be demoralized and alone at the game's conclusion. Noble 6 breathes his last breath on the planet Reach, ultimately joining his companions in death. The conclusion is bittersweet, praising for Noble 6 and his valiant efforts in the halting of the Covenant, but also emphasizing how close he came to dying in the process. Wanderer, Shadow of the Colossus. Shadow of the Colossus is a very well-made game. The game features players controlling Wander, a brave young man on a mission to rescue Mono, a little girl. Wander is given an enormous mission by a mysterious voice who tells him that Mono will be received if he can kill 16 strong Colossi that stalk the surrounding regions. The trip is lengthy, with 16 different boss battles. Wander is accompanied by Argo, a loyal horse that helps him traverse the vast globe quicker and kill some of the speedier Colossi. Wander loses his buddy along the journey, which is sad enough. The last boss encounter is a bittersweet battle of difficult mechanics and timing, with new scars of possible defeat pounding in at the head. What follows is a shock and quite honestly one of the most devastating game defeats ever. Wanderer dies in the end, just after his mission is complete. He departed the earth without seeing Mono revived, which is a heavy stomach blow to every player who has completed the difficult job. Jenny Romano, the Darkness. Jenny isn't a character whom we spend a lot of time. We discover that she is a terrified girlfriend of the protagonist, Jackie Isakato. During the opening scenes of The Darkness, both were unlucky members of an orphanage when they met. Jenny took a liking to Jackie there, and she even stood up for him against an angry bully. From that point on, they were inseparable. Jackie, however, found himself in an unfavorable situation. He operated a contract assassin for Uncle Paulie, a shady character. Jenny is abducted by Paulie and taken into the orphanage, where she and Jackie used to reside during one part of the game. Our hero, who is now being devoured by an unknown entity, the Darkness, pursues her in the hopes of rescuing her from the Benkin Mafia leader. Following his arrival, Jackie is overwhelmed by the Darkness, which compels him to witness as Paulie shoots Jenny in the head. This is a typical case of death by association, a terrible scenario in which Jenny never deserved to die at such a young age. Thank Krios, Mass Effect 3. In Mass Effect 2, Thane was a drill assassin, comrade, and a potential love interest. The calculating murderer gained popularity among players due to his preoccupation with spiritual developments and general respect. Thane was a skilled assassin, perhaps the finest in the galaxy, who liked to kill his prey up close, ensuring that the job was completed quickly and properly. The way he had handled the passage of a target was what made him such a strong figure. Thane used to say a prayer and beg for forgiveness when each mark was removed. He was so passionate about this practice that he would do it even for the advisories or citizens were still in the area. His love for life and simple things were remarkable, and Adrel was charmed with nature's beauty. Thane passes away in a calm but sorrow manner, going off to sleep in a hospital bed. We have a few moments to say our goodbye to our Adrel pal, making it all the more difficult. It is conceivable for Thane to survive death, just as it is for Mordin, but someone else will assume his position as a consequence. Aerith Gainsborough, Final Fantasy VII. This term typically comes up when people speak about terrible gaming experiences. The tragedy of Aerith's death is perhaps the darkest moment in Final Fantasy history, causing even the most determined players to cry. This humble flower seller had a romantic connection with Zac from Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII, and subsequently met Cloud by strange circumstances. If only she had known that meeting Cloud would alter her life and bring it to a close. Aerith's kind-heartedness and charming personality would grow to be known and loved later in the game. Her death was surprising and unexpected, which may explain why it is so heartbreaking to see. When Cloud and his team sought to track down the wicked Sephiroth, the silver-haired villain forced Cloud to murder his newfound buddy. Sephiroth took matters into his own hands and impaled Aerith on the famous Masamune sword when Cloud refused. That's it for today. We'll see you in our next video. Until then, take care and goodbye. Thanks for watching.